Hello and howdy, everyone. Last night I saw Lincoln for the second time, and I absolutely loved it. I have no problems giving it a 9. I actually think I want to give it a 10. You know, I'm so hesitant to hand out 10s, but I can't think of why I wouldn't. You know, so I think Lincoln is a 10. And not only that, I think, you know, I'm trying to formulate my top 10, you know, top 15, whatever, of the year of 2012. I think it might be number 1, you know. I hate to spoil the surprise, but I don't know if I have seen or, you know, will see a better movie released in 2012. I think it's kind of magical. So yeah, I loved it. You know, I'll give it a 10. I definitely enjoyed it more the second go around. You know, the situation was a little bit different. You know, the first time I saw it, I was a little bit late to the theater. Had to sit in a seat that was not, you know, would not be my first choice. And it was a little crowded for my taste. So here I've waited long enough, and the theater was still admirably full. But, you know, I had arrived in time and got to, you know, pick my seat. And really was just swept away by this story. The movie is about the last months of Abraham Lincoln's life. He's trying to wrap up the Civil War. He's trying to get the 13th Amendment passed through the House, and then therefore into law. He's trying to deal with his family on the verge of falling apart. As well as, you know, the country on the verge of falling apart. It's beautifully acted. I think, you know, that's why I love the film so much, is it assembles some of the best actors working today. We arguably have the greatest living actor at the top of his game. In this film, that's Daniel Day-Lewis. He portrays Abraham Lincoln. He is Abraham Lincoln. Watching his performance last night, you know, it's a miracle. I can't think of another word. It's a miracle. It's amazing. It's magic. You know, it's something here, but it's not here. You know, to me, it both exists and does not exist at the same time. You know, they say that confusing thing about jazz, about how it's not about the notes you play, it's about the notes you don't play, which still confuses me because I don't really have a musical mind. But that's kind of what I'm going for here. You know, it's not about the emotions that Daniel Day-Lewis hits. It's about the emotions he doesn't. I don't really know how else to explain it. It's just marvelous. It is a marvel to watch him work. And so I will love this film for all time because of that, you know. And this is, even though I love There Will Be Blood, that is a very near and dear film to my heart. It doesn't have the repeat quality that Lincoln does. You know, I can sit there and watch Lincoln and watch one of the, you know, again, the greatest living actor deliver one of his finest performances ever. Perhaps his finest, and, you know, well up with emotion and, you know, be overcome by joy at the end. Where I would watch There Will Be Blood, which he arguably, portrays one of the greatest villains of all time, and again, arguably now in contention for his greatest performance. But after watching There Will Be Blood, I've had an undeniable artistic experience, but I feel, a little bit hollowed out. That film takes a lot out of you. Lincoln puts a lot into you. It gives you a lot. I left the theater brimming with hope, and with pride, and with joy. And I don't really think there's anything a film could do more than that. The film also stars Tommy Lee Jones. The film stars a lot of people. There's something like 160, 180 speaking roles in this film. So it's an expansive cast. Tommy Lee Jones is at the first and front. He has the best role, I think. He has the best character. He's also one of our greatest actors. He's amazing in this film. But again, he also has the most sharply written character. And he really gets the best lines. And he does an amazing job with it. Sally Field is also in it. She's Mary Todd Lincoln, the wife of Abraham. She's really good here. Exceptionally good. Again, all the acting across the board is exceptional. All of the writing across the board is exceptional. It's written by Tony Kushner, Pulitzer Prize winner Tony Kushner? Do I have to say that? It's amazing. Even though the characters are, again, so expansive, there's, characters with but a few lines, and somehow they seem rounded out, fleshed out entirely. Maybe not, everyone. There's still, the bad guys, the Democrats. They still seemed a little bit, hokey for me, unmotivated, besides them wanting to protect their way of life. I never saw any motivation for them to be so voracious, So I guess, I could use a little bit more of that, but it seemed perfect at the time. It fits in with the story. Again, this is, I think the first draft of the screenplay I remember reading was something around 400 pages. So you're not going to have a 400-minute film about, Lincoln. So, obviously it had to be streamlined somewhat. And I'll take it. I'll take it. The film looked gorgeous. Anything dealing with authenticity, set direction, costume design, it just takes you there. I mean, you are there. You feel like you're in the middle of it. It's more than just a fly on the wall, which, I just saw Zero Dark 30. I saw Zero Dark 30 right before I saw Lincoln. And they're, they remind me of each other. But where Zero Dark 30, I feel like I'm watching everything, from maybe behind a plate glass window, or, as a fly on the wall. I feel somewhat separated, but yet I'm just right there watching it. With Lincoln, I feel like I'm in the middle of their conversation, and they're having the conversation around me. Like as if they have to look around me so that they can see the other person they're talking to. That's how drawn in I am to the film. And I think it's the art direction, basically, that pulls that off. The music, John Williams is here. I can't really say anything, stands out in my head musically. I'm sure that it was pretty much constant, but I can't really hum anything from the Lincoln score. A couple of people I've talked to about this film have a problem with the opening, and I can definitely see their point. I think their point was basically that it was just the only cheesy part, you know, that it just felt a little fake, you know. I can definitely see where they're coming from. You know, it is a bit cheesy, but I will make an argument to say that that is where this film begins. And the way it starts, or just that scene, if you can think about that scene, which is basically 4 soldiers, 2 white, 2 black, reciting the Gettysburg Address back to Lincoln to show him that, you know, his words have power. You know, what he said meant something. I think a lesser film would end there. That would be, and even it was shot that way, you know, with the fade to black and everything. A lesser film, that would have been the ending scene. That would have been the climactic scene, and now you leave the theater and you go home and think about it. But, and if it were, I guarantee that people wouldn't have thought it was cheesy. Because it's the emotional climax, and it shows, you know, what power this man had. Here it begins the film. That's the jumping off point. So it reads as a little, you know, important, which is fine. I think, again, I think it fits in with the film. So there you go. I think that, you know, that's how good this film is. It begins with a film's ending. You know, a powerful emotional punch. You know, that's the first thing we see here. And I think maybe that's why people are having a problem with it. Just because it is, you know, good. So good. And it's, you know, the first scene of the film. So it's maybe confrontational in a way. But I had no problem with it. I can see where they're coming from, you know, saying that, but I don't really necessarily agree. I absolutely love the film. I don't really know what else I, you know, can say about it. I think Steven Spielberg, if I haven't said that yet, this is a Steven Spielberg film. I think he really rose to the occasion by taking a back seat in terms of style. You know, in my first review, I remember talking about how simply directed it was, how we start with a full frame and slowly move in, you know, to the central character. I still noticed that somewhat, but I, you know, perhaps was a little harsh on my first review. I noticed a lot more of the camera moving around, you know, showing characters at, you know, just the right time. So, again, I think this was a real exercise for Spielberg, both in restraint and, again, honoring this script, make sure it's, you know, visually told as best it could be, and then, again, in the editing room. You know, I think this was a big success in terms of editing for Spielberg. And editing is the part of the movie-making process that I just do not understand. You know, I don't know what happens in there, and in the editing bay, and I don't want to know. You know, I don't want to know how that happens. But it's films like this that make me notice editing, and I never really think about it too much. So I don't really know what else to say. Again, I think Lincoln is the film of the year so far. I mean, I'm arguing with myself a lot about, really, you know, isn't there something else that can compete? And yeah, there's other things that could compete, but I think Lincoln's pretty much got it hands down. So there you go. I'll give it a 10. Lincoln is a 10 for me, and unless I see an amazing film in the next 2 weeks as I'm trying to wrap up my 2012, it's going to be the film of the year for me. All right, thank you very much.